Okay. And awesome. Okay, we're rolling. And with that said, we'll be rolling the mic in five, four, three, two, and one. Yo, what's good, meatheads? Hope you're having an amazing day and welcome to another episode of the Meathead on the Mic podcast. It's your returning champion, IFBB Pro Matt Butale, coming at you with another topic. And today I'll be introducing myself to the new Meathead on the Mic listeners, podcast supporters of 2023. All right. So if you've been listening to my podcasts since I've been podcasting since 2020, stick around. You might learn something new about me that you didn't know. But if you are new here, then definitely you might want to give me your undivided attention to learn a little bit about what this podcast is about, why I do this podcast, and how it actually can help you and why you should listen to it. Okay. But before we dive in, please take the time to invite somebody else who you know might need to hear a motivational word or something encouraging or learn something about fitness. Share this out to them. They don't have to watch this live with you if you're watching this live. You can just let them know that you're tuning in. Don't be selfish. Share the information. Okay, let's get into it. All right. Today, my intention is a lot more different than normally it would be, on any other day. On any other day, on the Meathead on the Mic podcast, we usually talk about mindset, mental health. We talk about, fitness. We talk about health. We talk about pretty much anything any guy that wants to improve themselves will end up going through at one point or another, right? But today, we are doing something very different and sort of to honor the new listeners of 2023 by, simply giving an introduction. I realize that there are a lot of people that are new here that, have just started following and just, heard about me or really just want to get into fitness and don't know how to do it. They don't have like an outlet. And that was one of the many reasons I actually decided to, start this podcast to give those people, those newbies, an outlet where they can go to learn, but it's also like kind of half serious, where like no one's really judging you. No one's like, telling you you're an idiot because you don't know something. Like I talk about pretty basic shit that other people might feel too afraid to ask or to talk about with another like gym guy or like, say you go to the gym, you see someone that's fucking yoked as a guy, right? You go up to another guy that's yoked, there's an intimidating factor, and I know it exists, right? My intention is to show you that meatheads aren't necessarily meatheads with this podcast, and that you can ask me questions. Shit, you can even roast me. We can laugh about shit, and it's just like it as it would be in the gym, or at least that's my intention. For you to be lighthearted, to understand the value of connection with other people that have what you want. In this case, a nice body, and learning how to get it right, but mainly helping you build that courage so that next time you see a meathead in your local gym, you don't feel afraid. You don't have that stigma towards them like they're an asshole or that they're not here to help you or that, they don't like you just because they're jacked. I want to dismantle that. Okay. That's like one of the main reasons why we've got this. That's the main culture in the Natural Nomad Academy, which is the coaching company that I do have for my athletes and my fat loss clients. That's just how it is. That's who I am. And that's why I'm here, to help you guys and girls feel more welcome into the gym, especially if you're new there. All right. That's the basis of this podcast. But I'm doing something a little bit different today. As I said earlier on, I will be introducing myself to the new listeners, the new followers of 2023. And my way that I thought of doing so would be like literally just spilling the beans, telling you what I've been through, and just giving you a little like quick time lapse. So today in this episode, I'm gonna give you a little time lapse, basically of me going from 0 to 24, which is because I'm 24 right now. I'll be turning 25 in April. I'll tell you everything that I did in my life, and you might see some things there that are not pleasant, which is okay because I'm not perfect, and that's another thing that I want to bring to your attention. Okay, I don't want you to think that any social media person you see or influencer of that sort is like perfect, that they don't have anything wrong with them or that they never did. Right. So I just want to be transparent. I'm going to open up the door, open up the floodgates, and let you know that I'm also a human being just like you. So, with that said, again, thank you for tuning in. We're going to be diving into it. And I'm going to give you on a year to year basis how I guess, essentially lived my life and grew up. Right. And disclaimer, I'm not perfect. So, you're going to see a lot of fucking horrible shit here. Maybe some things you even relate with. Okay. So, tune in. All right. I'll be 25 in April. And here's how my life has been so far. All right. And again, for those of you that don't know, I'm an IFBB Pro. I've won nationals several times as a natural bodybuilder, and I used to compete as a freestyle wrestler. I've been an athlete for years on years, and although it might appear that my life is like, oh, this kid just works hard and gets whatever he wants, it's not that way. Okay, so here's a quick time lapse. At 0 years old, when I was just born, I was welcomed into this world with my twin brother, an older sister, and two loving parents. So, for those of you that don't know, yes, I'm an identical twin. And now you know that. Okay. Don't ask me questions about where he is, what he's doing, because I'm not going to answer them. So, at age 1, just like you, I learned how to, crawl, cry, eat, sleep, and shit at age 1. And at age 2, I learned how to walk, communicate, and play. And then by the time I was 3, don't know if you guys have this where you are, where you're listening to this, but there's just like kids TV show called Treehouse. I used to watch that all the time. Talked and played with my brothers and sisters, as kids do. And then by age 4, Treehouse became Teletubbies, and I learned how to run, eat candy, be a menace, and all that shit as an asshole kid. And my baby brother was born, right? Then at age 5, I was, like a regular 5-year-old, starting to get silly, biting, scratching, and developing my own fucking personality, which is partially who I am today. It's like I think around that age, I watched The Hulk for the first time, the 2003 version with Eric Cabana, and then that's like I think when I realized that I wanted to get jacked. That and also seeing Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Triple H on TV, watching WF with my dad, you know, that's the thing sort of started to like pile in or like come into my head where like I would get these ideas of like wanting to be strong and like wanting to look like my action figures that I collected at that age. And then by 6, I started to socialize with other kids at kindergarten, after school programs, daycare, and I discovered the Hulk for real, for real. Like it wasn't just an image that I would see on the screen. It was like something I believed. I genuinely believed when I was 6 that the Hulk was real and that I would see him in far, far off distances jumping, but really it was probably an airplane. And I just had a really, really vivid imagination as a kid. So that happened there. By age, oh, also, and I'm just gonna drop this there. I also had a massive crush on Jennifer Connelly. If you guys know who she is, then that's cool. If you don't know, then I'm not gonna expose myself, but I'm a human being. Okay, so if you want to roast me on that, that's your opportunity, and it's the last one I'll give you today. Okay, so by 7, probably like you, again, I was an energetic kid. I lived for fucking recess, man. I don't know about you kids, but I went to school for recess, lunch, and recess, which is the same thing, right? I played with my friends, got in trouble, and had loads of fun. And then my baby sister was born in 2005. And then I turned 8 the following year, and I noticed, my adult teeth started to grow, started playing outside till the streetlights came on, and I never finished my fucking homework. Like that's just that's when that bad habit started to develop. Also, I was addicted to what is it? Budokai Tenkaichi and the other 2 games that were in that sort of family. I played my PlayStation 2 all the time. If you know what a PlayStation 2 is, thank God, because you're probably a kid if you don't know. But again, that's something that I did when I was 8. That's how I spent a lot of my time. And again, I'm telling you these things in detail year by year, not only to like introduce myself to you, but like for you to also see similarities in yourself. Because part of this is, yes, introducing myself, but another part of this, guys and girls, is to tell you that we might have had similar lives, but our outcomes are different because of how things change and how I react to the change. Right. So, what you might be able to get out of this episode is the thing that you might need to change in terms of your reaction that is going to get you the benefit or get you the result that you want out of whatever it is that you're striving for, if that makes sense. Right. So, I'm not going to spare any details because you might be able to relate to something and you might realize that we're a lot more alike than we are different and that you can do what I can do as well. Okay. So that was the last year, 8 years old, of me being alive without ever having broken a limb. Because the next year I broke my left arm in a stupid bicycle accident. Not going to get too deep into it because that's too specific. But we would also play. I lived in an apartment building, right? So we would play, like tag and hide and seek and freeze tag and stuff. There's this one day that I pulled the fire alarm, for hide and seek simply because I mean there was no real reason, but I got petty because I saw the other person on the other side of the door, and I said, "I got you. You've been found." But they were holding the door, so it was like freeze tag. I had to tag them in order for the game to like freeze them or whatever. So it's 2 of them holding the door, and I'm on the other side. I couldn't open it, so I was frustrated. Pulled the alarm. Definitely got my ass whooped as a kid for that shit because I did a lot of crazy shit when I was a kid. And I was bad. I won't lie. Like, I'm not gonna call my parents evil for what they did. I think they were nice. They were lenient for the way they whipped my ass because if I had a kid like me, I don't know what I would do. Anyway, by the time I was 10, I moved for the very first time. I cried a lot. I took swimming lessons and I also, snuck into the gym with my twin brother because, we weren't allowed to. You got to be like, I think at the time it's probably still is 16 if to get to train with a supervised adult and then 18 to train by yourself, but we didn't care. We just went to the YMCA, snuck in, and trained every time. We would go home and play RuneScape daily. I still have the same account. It's crazy. Never forgot the password. If you know what RuneScape is, shout out to you. You're a dinosaur now. How does it feel? Anyway, 11 years old, I made new friends, got in less trouble, and spent my days riding bikes and playing at the park. Got a PS3 and watched Dragon Ball Z every single summer with my family. Discovered social media around that time too, which is funny too because I still most of my social media accounts that I do have were created when I was like 12 or 11. So it's kind of funny. Like I think my YouTube account, my YouTube channel, and my Twitter were both made in like '08 or '09 or something like that. And it's just funny when I like look back at it. Like there's something that I made as an 11-year-old that I use to this day, like every day, which is just kind of fucked up to think about, but it makes me laugh and it's true. By 12, I started to develop a passion for poetry. My sixth grade teacher would always tell me about my artistic skills, and it would boost me and motivate me to lean towards expressing myself artistically, which also did manifest in a way into bodybuilding, but that conversation is for another day. I started to pay attention to art, which sort of falls into the same category as like the poetry and science and math as well. Made more friends, started crushing on girls, all that shit a 12-year-old does, right? The year after, I'm 13, I start being a little bit more rebellious in class, because drama at home, I'll keep it a stack. I ain't perfect. You may experience this, you may not have experienced this. But I did have problems at home growing up as a 13-year-old. I loved certain subjects, but I never focused. I played every single sport at school, and I also had an Xbox 360. It's something that I spent countless hours on at that age to sort of ignore the problems that was going on at home. By 14, this is when shit started to get real fucked up, but in a good way, or at least this is the beginning of the planting of the seed that allowed me to, I guess, somewhat become who I am. So, 14 years old, I enter high school, you know, lost my virginity, started smoking weed, fought often, skipped class, played football, which was really fucking fun, and started stealing. I also got my first job around then, and all the worst things happened simply because my parents divorced, and I just was a rebellious kid looking for an outlet that I couldn't find, and just living as a degenerate to make up for it, even though it didn't make up for shit, right? And then I really started to hit the gym more often to get better at football and wrestling because was dabbling in wrestling. Never really started that year. I started the year after at 15, but for football I was in the gym as well. So I was realizing I could let off some steam in the gym, but it wouldn't really be my thing until I turned 15, which is the next year. I was still working at a restaurant. I became a wrestler because I was dabbling at 14. I went fully in and committed as a 15-year-old. Started wrestling, continued playing football, and I found my passion for the gym because I realized that like outside of all the other degenerate shit that I was doing, that the gym was the only place that I could go that I could spend energy at and not only have a positive return, but and when I say positive return, I'm talking about building muscle and stuff, but also having a positive return on like my mindset, like feeling better after going to the gym was something that I really, really, really started to love at the beginning. And even now to this day, simply because it's part of what made me who I am, but it also showed me that there are better ways to manage shitty feelings, especially, at that age, going through my parents' divorce and stuff like that, right? Because I was just like becoming a degenerate, right? And guys and girls, as I said, I'm not going to spare any details for the sake of looking perfect on social media. Could give less of a fuck. I want you to know who I am because I know who you are. If you tune in, if you talk to me, if you DM me and you let me know some of your struggles, that's you letting me know who you are and what you're dealing with. And the very least that I could do is reciprocate that and let you know who I am so that, again, it's an open door and that you don't feel like you're talking to somebody that thinks they're better than you because I know I'm not better than you. Shit. Some of the things that I've probably done are worse than you've ever done in your life. You know what I mean? So just keep that in perspective here. Other people online are not as perfect as you think they are. Okay. And if you think that way, then just continue listening to this episode because we are almost done. But at the end of 15 years old, when I somewhat found the gym, it was also a bad thing because, I was we'll talk about the good stuff. I was the second best wrestler in Canada, you know, provincial and regional championships, all that stuff. And then I quit wrestling. So that's when shit started to get really bad. And the reason why I quit wrestling at the time was I had a horrible I'll just be honest with you, I was a sore loser. I went to wrestling, dominated everything, and then when I went to nationals, I lost on an 11-11 tie. So I was very close to winning, whatever that means. And I just couldn't handle it. It was to be fair, it was also my birthday that I lost on. But I literally went to the locker rooms, cried like a little bitch, punched up the lockers, stormed out, and never wrestled again. That's like what happened. And then because I didn't have that wrestling outlet, I didn't really train as hard. And because I didn't train as hard, and I also got kicked off the football team because I was skipping school too much, I just fell into a depression. I would start taking drugs constantly at 15, right? And then moving on to 16, I started to miss, instead of days, weeks of school, just sitting at home playing Xbox and then working and then repeating. Drugs and depression really owned me at 16 years old. I started to have a lot more meaningless sex and partied literally every weekend. And whenever my father would go on vacation, I would be the asshole kid that did those Project X parties. Shout out to you if you were there. Definitely do not regret anything. But I was a really fucked up kid, probably worse than you were at 16, right? And shit still turned out better for me in the end. So just keep that in mind, right? It gets better. Okay. So at 17 years old, long story short, I don't think I've ever once, since I ever started, even as a bodybuilder or like going on live streams or podcasts, talk about this. But at 17 years old, I almost, and for those of you that know me in real life, you know this already. I don't like talking about this. I'm only going to glaze over this because I don't want to dive too deep into this. But when I was 17, I almost got my dad killed, right? I got kicked out of home, of the house and stuff. I started smoking cigars and partying even harder, and like got kicked out of school. Trained even harder at the gym just to try to make up for like that horrible feeling that I had. I had severe depression, extreme loneliness, and I had a horrible relationship with my mother, substance abuse, and I really hated my mom around that time, at 17 years old. Something that some of you 17-year-olds listening to this might even relate to. And I'm just telling you that even though it's fucking like bad right now, and you just cannot believe it, and you can't even see yourself in the future, like having a good relationship with them, things can and will get better if you put your head in the right spot. So fast forward a year after that, 18 years old. I sobered up a little bit, it wasn't perfect, but I wasn't, as bad as I was the previous years. I decided to, at that time, I wanted to be a cop, right? Go figure. So I got my security guard license. I became a guard. I stopped working in factories and restaurants. And then I worked full time as a security guard. And, I started helping my dad out a lot more. And that's when I think when I became responsible at home, because it was just my father and I would like start covering the bills because, he was a single father, right? And he always worked overtime, like 14 to 16 hours is regular for him, right? So I really felt like I owed him, especially for what happened the year prior, which we're not going to get too much into detail of. But I ended up training harder and I ended up eating better as a result of being more responsible and actually living for the purpose of helping others instead of like myself. And my dad was like the first person I truly felt like I should start helping because he like raised me with the values that I have now. And I just felt like, if anybody, it's him. He deserves my help. And, I owe him for the rest of my life. And just for giving me life, the very least I could do is just show him my appreciation through putting an effort into the same things he puts an effort into for me. So that's just one thing, very vulnerable, very transparent. I'll be open and honest with you, that I had to go through. I still wasn't perfect at 18. I still partied every now and again. And I worked nights as a factory and then or at a factory outside of doing the security. So I was like I stopped essentially doing factory work, in a factory because I was a security guard in a factory at this point. It was funny because the same people I used to work with when we would do all the shipping and receiving and stuff one day came in and saw me printing out IDs in a fucking security outfit. They're like, "What the fuck? Did you get promoted?" I'm like, "No, I just switched my thing and I'm doing security now." So that's what I was up to when I was 18, work night shifts. And I also met my first true love, like going around sleeping as a younger teen, like sure, that's something I did. But I actually, I guess at that time, I thought I met somebody that like, I really, really liked. And, we ended up pursuing it until the next year. I turned 19, and this is where shit hits the fan. This is where at least 90% of you that are following me now have sort of introduced me at when I was, or were introduced to me at the age of 19, when I was 19, because this is when I, started my fitness, Instagram, and I started to really take fitness seriously. 19 was the first year that I ever competed. I was 19 years old. And it started because, and I told the story a couple of times on the podcast already. I started competing as a response because my girlfriend actually left me, and it was me and my buddy Matt, who was also another Matt who also liked fitness. Who I went to high school with. We used to party with back like when we were kids, and all that stuff. And he's like, "Yo, bro," he was also going through a breakup, and he's like, "Bro, we got to train together. We got to level up. Like, bro's got to watch bros back. And I'm doing a competition, and I want you to do one too because I ain't going to do this shit alone." And like, I was like, "Oh fuck, I don't want to do that. Like, bodybuilding is gay. Like, I already, like pumping iron and all that stuff. Like, I had a blast training every single time." And I didn't actually think bodybuilding was gay, but I just couldn't see myself dead wearing a fucking underwear in front of 100 people. Anyway, he ended up convincing me, and we went to the same show, we competed, and we did well. I won my first show. He placed second in his first show. He did excellent. We both It was our first show. We fucking killed it. And then he told me, he's like, "Yo, you know what, bro? This is like, I think you're calling. You need to like do this." And then I thought to myself, like, when was the last time I was competitive? Right? It was wrestling. And when I stopped being competitive, and I stopped, training for like a purpose to improve myself or to improve my skill, that's when like all my other depression would start to like settle in, right? So I realized the perfect antidote to that would be like taking up another sport or like something else to occupy me physically, right? So that happened. I was depressed at 19 years old, did my first show. My buddy was there to support me. We hit gym after night shifts, hired a coach, did my first bodybuilding show and won. That was awesome. 19 was cool. 20 was when shit started to get a little bit more real for me, and I started to get a little bit more tapped into who I am becoming. I fired the coach that I worked with at the time for various reasons. I won nationals self coached, became more confident, started coaching others as a side hustle on the side of like my full time security gig that I was doing, and I would also add another job and start bouncing at the clubs at 20, right? And then 21, I really started to look at the mirror, and I'd get ashamed of shit that originally wouldn't bother me, right? At the time, I was okay with like having like shameless, unprotected sex with like random girls. Like I was cool with that. But at 21, I like looked at myself in the mirror, like this has got to stop. So I slowed down the meaningless sex, slowed down the substance abuse. I wasn't perfect, but I slowed it down and I made an intentional effort, just as you might be making right now. I forgave my mom for the heartache. I took care of my dad even more. I partied less. I worked more. And through that, I was able to place, second at my very second bodybuilding nationals, right? And I hired business mentors and started taking online coaching seriously because I realized that, I want to create like this lifestyle for myself where I have freedom and where it's also centered around what made my life so fucking amazing, which is the gym. The gym has literally saved me from every fucking downfall that I've ever had in my entire life since I was born. So I said, if anything, I'm going to teach other people how to get similar results, or at least most of the benefit that you get from being physically active in the gym. I'm going to teach people how to, get those benefits and also see that reflect in their physique and in their mentality, and then the way they treat themselves and others, right? So that's when it became like an overriding passion. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be a cop anymore. I'm already in the gym more than I can even count. I can't stop myself from training. I'm addicted to this. So why not, make this what my life is about, since it's already what my life is about? And then, it was a coincidence. By the time I was 22, I got laid off from both my security gigs, the club bouncing and the full time security gig I had at an auction lot. And essentially, it forced me to dive in and go all the way in with my online coaching business, which is the Natural Nomad Academy. And that honestly was one of the best things I ever did, to dive in and to get the just to have that support that I invested in with my mentors in the community that I'm in is the reason why I'm here today. And I'm able to like train whenever I want, eat whenever I want, live stream podcasts whenever I want, and just live the life that I want, go on vacation whenever I want, and all while helping other people get results they want with not only their physique, but with their mindset and their ability to be consistent and disciplined in their life. So it was really, really the turnaround year for me, going from age 20 to 21 to 22, because that was the COVID era, right? And around then, I made other commitments to myself when it, came to limiting my bad habits. Because I never, if you've noticed throughout the entire story here, and I never really like just cut shit out ever, because it's never worked that way for me. It's always been I slowly reduce it over a period of time, right? And so when it comes to like ingesting cannabis, right, or smoking, I, made a commitment to myself. I said 22 is the year that I quit using a lighter to smoke. And for those of you that do know or that have been following me for a while, you know that sometimes I do talk about marijuana on the timeline or in some episodes. And I'm not a big advocate of using a lighter for weed. Why? Because you are inhaling carbon monoxide, and monoxide is bad for you. So I'd use other alternatives like a decarboxylation or vapor through like a ceramic chamber. This means nothing to you if you don't ingest cannabis. So if you don't ingest cannabis, completely fucking ignore what I'm saying. But definitely, I just started to make, long story short, healthier alternatives and replacements, like edibles and stuff like that, instead of using a lighter to smoke. Right. So I also, controlled drinking, to less than 4 times a month, which was impossible for me to do before. But I ended up doing that, made massive gains, met my second love, you know, and I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm going to tell y'all everything here. I also subcontracted out my business to business partners for the first time. That was a wonderful experience. I was able to win a show with a really talented coach and learn a lot about business from really talented CEOs, and it was pretty cool. It was really, really cool. It was a nice experience that I went through at age 22, and I surrounded myself with more mentors and coaches and people that had an identical mindset to what I had, which was like, you want to live a life that is full of freedom and fulfillment and purpose. That also revolves around the gym, and then having that complement my lifestyle as a, at the time, amateur bodybuilder, right? So I still struggled mentally during COVID. Like, I really, at the beginning half of COVID, I was pretty much a full-fledged alcoholic, right? Didn't tell anybody really, because you don't want to, like, everyone wants to look perfect online. But that's something I definitely went through, which is also why I controlled my drinking to less than 4 times in a month after I sort of went over that bender, right? Just, this is just me being honest. Okay. This is me just making a confession to you that I am not perfect, letting you know who I am with all my imperfections, because all you pretty much see is just me flexing when I'm shredded, looking my absolute fucking best. And it's not everything. It's not all that comes with me. Okay. Also, that year when I was 22, my mother got really sick and she was in the hospital, and that fucking sucked. And I also lost 30 pounds to win a show with my coach, the same coach that I talked about earlier on, at age 22, which was we'll say he was also a business partner at the time when I subcontracted out my company with theirs. All right. So it was I learned a lot that year. I went through quite a bit of pain that year. Um, but it was mainly just a year where I was fighting and or combating like my old bad habits and developing, right? Which is sort of the theme for every year. The year after that is where shit just exploded. I broke up with that girlfriend because I just realized I couldn't focus on my energy on that. I hit my first 5-figure month as a self-employed, man, as an entrepreneur. And I won my second national title. So I became a 2-time Canadian champion. Also, I became an IFBB Pro at age 23 that year, right? So I started to feel more proud of myself. Like, I wanted to be an IFBB Pro for years, and it finally happened. I started to like feel more proud about myself. I met my business mentors in person for the first time, which is fucking awesome, and I've definitely got to see them again. I always wait too long for that. I definitely miss them, and my buddies there, my other colleagues in the mentorship community, which is, if you're a personal trainer listening to this, called the PT Domination Change Lives Academy. Worth every fucking penny. Don't even ask me if you should do it. Just do it and then tell me about your results after. It's that good, right? It's the reason why I've been self-employed for like 3 years. Anyway, um, I made lifelong friendships, and also my dad got in a horrible truck accident, almost lost his left arm, and I fully became my dad's backbone at age 23, which was 2 years ago, right? 2021. And now 2022, turned 24. I'm still my dad's backbone, planning my pro debut for the following year, focusing on myself and my clients, spreading knowledge, inspiration, and love through my posts, through this, the podcast, and whatever medium that I use to communicate and or converse with you guys and girls here, helping whoever I can. Honestly, I still enjoy drinks occasionally. Like, who the fuck doesn't. I mean, I do. I enjoy cannabis occasionally, and I like training like a demigod. I train fucking hard. I eat like a lion, and I learn from my mistakes as well as learning from my mentors' mistakes, and try my best not to replicate them. Right, and that's age 24. That's me, like right now, right? And so 25 in the future, which is in a couple of months, I don't know what the fuck that's gonna look like. We're gonna have to see, but I know for a fact it is going to be great. Okay, and that's what I really wanted to just tell you guys here. If there's anything that you've noticed, first of all, thank you for sticking around for 30 fucking minutes. You did not have to give me 30 minutes of your time. But if you notice anything here, from age 0 to 24, going to 25, everything every year got better and worse at the same time. There was always one good thing to be happy about or one bad thing to be mad about or sad about. But the main thing here is that every single year I focus on improving, not by jumping leaps and bounds, but just by being consistent and making small changes, like reducing the amount of alcohol that I would drink, you know, changing the way that I would ingest cannabis, reducing the frequency of both. Okay. Um, Increasing my intention when it comes to training, giving myself more time with recovery, taking advantage or taking control of my life and creating a life that I want by starting a business. Slowly, these things manifested from one thing to another. Okay. And I'll be honest with you, you probably heard some fucked up shit that you never knew about me. You would have never thought that, you know, I would have been who I was, right? You probably heard more bad things than you saw good things in here. But look, that's life. And I'm not perfect. I don't want you to think I'm perfect, and neither are you. Okay. But one thing I can say is the longer that I've been alive, the better life got. Even with the bad shit, the better it got. Because with the bad shit, the more capable I became, which you have more than enough power to actualize yourself. Like you can do that yourself as well. Because I am not better than you. You are not better than me. We are humans and we can do this. Like, period. Okay. If I can make my dreams come true, there's no reason or excuse why you can't, even if you are disabled. Because I've got people in my corner that are the same way. They're disabled, but they're the same way as me. Okay. Regardless of your age, especially if you work hard enough. That's true. All right. So, again, guys and girls, thank you so much for supporting my journey. I am grateful for each and every single one of you. And I really, really, really fucking mean that. I didn't think I'd make it past 17. Let's be honest. Okay. I did not think I'd make it past 17, but here we are. Life is crazy, isn't it? If you're listening to this, you like this episode, definitely shoot me a message and tell me one thing that I don't know about you. You can message me on any social media platform. I'm everywhere. You can just Google me. I'll be there. Okay. That is it. That's all. If you like this episode, share it out with a friend. I hope I was able to deliver a valuable experience to you guys and girls today. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Do not forget to screenshot and share this podcast out to your friends. Okay. You don't know, but someone might need to hear this. All right. So share this out to a friend that you know might need to hear this message. Let's embrace your inner me together. It's been nice chatting. Hope you like what today's topic was about. IFBB PRO Matt Butale signing out. Boom. All right. Podcast is recorded. I'm going to answer some questions. Yo, what's good, Nathaniel? He says, what's the topic for today? So today I was just introducing myself to those people that don't know who I am and are new to the Meathead of the Mic podcast. My main intention was to essentially tell people who I am, some of the bad things that I had in my life, how they helped shape me, how some things held me back. But long story short, my entire intention with this episode was to just let you know that what you see on social media isn't all what it seems. Like, people definitely have it a lot worse than they portray it. And I'm just breaking that fourth wall here, or at least attempting to, and just telling you like how literally from age 0 to 24, everything good and everything bad that I can remember, significant events that helped shape me become the man that I'm becoming in front of your very eyes. So that was the topic of today, which is just an introduction while also giving you the perspective that I'm not as perfect as you think I am, and I may have had it even harder than you, but I ended up in a position that is favorable because of consistently improving my habits just a little bit every single year. Okay, so that was it. That was the main topic for today. But guys and girls, I really do appreciate you tuning in today. It was a really long one. If you stuck around for the whole entire thing, you are a G. A salute to you. I appreciate you. We back again. You know what time it is. Peace, love, motherfucking protein. I'll chat to you guys very shortly. Enjoy the rest of your day. We are out. Boom.